Hello and welcome to Learning Excel 2016. My name is Mike Henry and this is the 7th video from Chapter 9. In this video we're going to focus on these two key formulas, the IPMT for the interest payment and the PPMT for the principal payment, but we're going to be building the upper part of the amortization schedule, and we're going to take that right through the end of the loan. So this is a very key component. When you get a home loan now, I believe it's required on most car loans, that you get an amortization schedule. Basically, an amortization schedule is going to show you what you are paying every payment period, how much of that payment goes towards the principal of the loan, or what you borrowed, and how much goes to the interest that you are paying to borrow that money. And it's very important that you understand how much is going towards either aspect of things. A lot of people get into financial trouble thinking, oh, I can borrow this amount of money and I'll just stretch it out over time. And what they might find out is that they borrowed $100,000 for that home, but because they stretched it out and put it off for so long that they ended up really paying maybe $300,000 for that $100,000 that they borrowed. So you really need to understand this. So we're going to build an amortization schedule. So we're going to build the amortization schedule for our loan. Now we've already done a loan piece here, and part of the amortization schedule would show you how the payment was calculated. And you can see that that's all right up here. And you can see I can go really quickly in here and I can put in our $400,000 for the loan. The annual rate is 5%. Number of payments per year, because we're doing this as a quarterly, there'll be 4 payments, and then the rate per period. The reason I'm showing you this is when you do this in the test environment for this class, you need to do this as a formula right here. Don't just type in the rate or these different pieces. What I want you to do is actually calculate them out. So in this case I'm going to take the annual rate and I'm going to divide that by the number of payments to give me my 1.25. To figure out my years, I put that in, and then to figure out my number of payments, again, use the formula. That's what I'm going to be looking for when you do this on the exam. So that's why I'm showing you these in here should be formulas when you do that. And then we've already done a payment, so that's pretty straightforward. We do a PMT, and just to remind us, we do the same thing. We put this in, and we get our rate, and we get our number of payments. We'll also put in our present value over here, and the future value, because we're going to pay this loan off, will be 0. So we put all those in, and that was the number, if you remember what we were doing before, 22.7 was what we're paying. So this is important. This is part of an amortization schedule, and you need to figure out that payment. Now, the amortization schedule here shows us the years of this loan. So there's going to be year 1, 2, 3, 4. It shows us that we're making 4 payments per year. And then what we're going to do is we're going to figure out what we have for funds as we go through. So the key is to build this as we look at it, but also know that we're going to copy this. So right here where it says remaining principal, this is the first year before we've made the first payment, so we haven't paid anything back. So naturally, the amount that we borrowed would be the amount that would go in here for remaining principal. So I put in there A5. I base this off of my numbers. Now to figure the interest payment, that's how much interest that I'm paying of my payment back. And so we use an IPMT here. So IPMT, that's our interest payment. And you can see that when we do this one, we're going to get one difference in here. So I'm just going to bring this down a little bit here. Now here we're going to be doing the rate, and you can see that I've got my rate here. Now this is also going to be taken down over time, so it's really important that I absolute this. By putting in an absolute, I can copy this down. Now here we get a new one called PER, and you go, well, I haven't seen that one yet. So this is the period for which you find the interest in. So here you can see we've got the number of periods. Each payment is considered a period. So what we're doing here is we're saying this is for payment period 1. And next time it'll be for payment period 2. So in this case, we definitely don't want to absolute this. We want this to move to 2, to 3, to 4, because the interest in each payment should be different. Now the number of payments, we know that that's up there. We know we want to copy that, so that definitely gets absoluted. Now the present value. The present value is right here. We don't want to use the remaining principal. The loan's present value is $400,000, and it's based on that $400,000. It's not changing every time we pay because that would make it a different loan every time. So we need to go to this present value here, and I absolute that so I can pull that down. The future value we definitely know is 0, and so I hit. And so what we're saying is this payment that we make, this first payment of $22,728, $5,000 of it is going to the bank. That doesn't come off the top. The rest of it is what's going to come off the top. So we need to figure out how much is going to be on the principal payment. And I know some of you are going, well, I just take $5,000 and take it off of that, and it would be 17. That's not how we're going to do this. We need to be able to figure out the principal payment, and we are going to use a formula called PPMT. So that's for principal payment. And you'll notice when I do this that these look exactly like the ones for the IPMT. The only difference is we get the P in front. So you can see I put my rate, and obviously I'm going to absolute that. My period, for this period, I can do 1. I don't want to absolute that. I want it to change. And then I put in my number of payments. Definitely absolute that. And I go back to my set present value. And I absolute that. Of course, my future value is 0. And then you can see that I get the 17,728. If I were to take this and add it to this, it should give me my payment amount. And that's a check and balance here. I figure out my interest and principal payment, add them together, and it should get me my total payment here. So you should always be checking to make sure you get that. Now over here, the next line down, you go, I need to know my remaining principal. Okay, you only paid $17,700 towards the principal. You did not pay $22,000 towards it because $5,000 of that went to the bank for the pleasure of borrowing this money. So what we do is we take our remaining principal, and in this case we just add in our principal payment because it's a negative. So when you add in this negative right here, you can see that now after I make my first payment I still owe the bank $382,272,000. Right? So now these here I can just simply copy down 1, and then I can take this whole line here, and that's the nice thing because we've set everything up with absolutes. I can copy this all the way down, and I've built my amortization schedule. Now, just like we've always done, you always ask the question, does this make sense? And you go, does this make sense? My payment is always the same all the way down. Even the last payment is the same as the first payment. That makes sense. When you get a car loan, they don't change the payment every month. It's the same payment all the way through. If you look here, you see your interest payment goes down every month. And that's because you're actually owing less money because you have paid off your balance. So that makes sense that the interest goes down. And if the interest is going down, then the principal payment should be going up. And you can see that that's going up. I always like to look at the last payment. The remaining balance of $22,448 should be the remaining principal, because when you pay that off, the loan will then be 0, and that will cover you for the life of this loan. So yes, this makes sense. This is a good amortization schedule that we've built. So in this video, we looked at building an amortization schedule, and we built the top part, which was redoing a payment, which we saw we have done this before in other videos. And we see that we then build the amortization schedule, finding our interest payment and our principal payment. Those are the two key pieces that we need in here. And we make sure that when we add those two together, it equals the payment that we found from finding the payment. If those are not equaling, you've got an issue. Somewhere along the line, you've got a number that's just not working. So you need to fix that before you can move on. The amortization schedule, if you build it right with your absolutes, you'll be able to copy that rate down, and it doesn't matter if it's a 5-year quarterly like we did with 20 payments, or if you do a home loan, which is 12 payments per year for 30 years, which would be 360. You can simply copy that down and take it all the way out.